Coaches from across the nation have come together to release the first top 25 poll of the 2025 season, and clearly they know ball.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Richie Bradshaw, your guide, your friend, your expert for all things Sun Devils, from the gridiron to the hardwood and everything in between. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. On the agenda for today, the Coaches Poll has released the first of the year. ASU checking in at number 11. I like it. What's that mean for the ramifications, though? How's the national perspective? How's the Big 12 perception? And then we wrap it up with just taking a look at the rest of the poll overall. Before we get started, I want to thank each and every single one of you for tuning into Locked On Sun Devils and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to the everydayers who are here every day. Arizona State will be debuting in this year's debut. First of the year, the coaches' top 25 poll. That's pretty cool. Now, I know a lot of people don't care about the coaches' poll, which is kind of a bummer. And I think the biggest reason why people don't care is because that's not the one that gets used. When you look at the rankings that pop up on the weekend, you see number 1, Ohio State plays, number 2, Michigan, right? What you see is the AP ranking for most of the season before it transitions to the college football playoff ranking, which at that point, that's the only one that matters. Take AP, take the college poll, and throw them in the trash. But to start the year, everyone's using AP, and the coaches poll kind of gets pushed aside, which is a bummer because you know who votes on the coaches poll? The coaches. Yeah, who would have guessed? Last year, Kenny Dillingham was voting. This year, he is not. It's not a surprise. They have coaches from across the country that get together. I want to say there's like 50 of them or something like that. And they throw their votes all together. There's probably more than that. I don't know. There's a point being, there's a lot of coaches that will vote on this. And they voted ASU as the number 11 program going into the year. And I love this for a multitude of reasons. One, I think a lot of ASU fans, myself included, were curious how the program was going to be perceived by the nation going into the year. Remember, this was supposed to be ASU fighting the allegations that they were a Cinderella team, that they were a program that got hot at the right time and took advantage and made the college football playoff before going one and done. And people were right to feel that way, especially because Cam Scadaboo, the People's running back, was one of the biggest reasons ASU did make such a run to the postseason. However, the rest of that roster was still really, really good. And the vast majority of that roster returned from 24 to 25. So we go into the year, we know what to expect from this team. We're expecting 10 wins. We're expecting ASU to contend for the Big 12 title. And we're certainly expecting ASU to potentially appear in the playoff for a second consecutive year. So we like what we see in Tempe, rightfully so. But does the rest of the nation see ASU there? Apparently they do. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But focusing on right now why I like it because clearly, at least from the coach's perspective, people are paying attention to what's going on in Tempe. That means a lot. And it's worth more than its weight in gold. Because you have to think about how ASU is not just fighting the allegations of being the Cinderella team, they're also fighting to reestablish their identity as a program. ASU has long been an above average college football program since the turn of the century. You want to go back to the 60s and 70s, they were dominant. But since the turn of the century, they've been above average. They've had more good years than bad, but they're coming off some really bad years. And Kenny Dillingham in his second season, and Kenny Dillingham only being 35 years old, one of the youngest coaches in college football. I think he got passed. I don't remember. You have to show a lot of people that you are worthy of that kind of notoriety moving forward. Clearly, the other coaches think so. You are truly being able to change that perception that people have had of ASU over the last 2 years, if they've even had one. Because honestly, who in the national perspective, who's paying attention to Arizona State since 2020, since COVID? Not very many people. And again, rightfully so. Why would anyone care about a program that only played 4 games during COVID because of the amount of games that were canceled and postponed because of COVID? That's on ASU, only to come to find out the reason why they were all postponed. And then, yeah, ASU rolls into 2021 with a team that's supposed to be stacked. And you look at that team in hindsight, it does not look good. ASU should have won a lot more than 8 games that year. But that's what happened. And then they won 6 games combined the next 2 years. So, yeah, there's not a lot of reason to pay attention to ASU recently. So, when they come out of nowhere with an 11-win season and they had won 14 games in the previous 3 seasons, yeah, you're kind of caught off guard. And the whole nation who's focusing on your Ohio States and your Alabamas of the world. And then you have the other breakout teams like SMU was an 11-win program last year. Boise State was an 11-win program last year. They both made the playoff. A lot of people are really interested with them. Indiana won 11 games. Like there was a lot of programs that really kind of came out of nowhere last year. And ASU was one of those programs. So you go into year 2 and it's like, are you going to be able to command that same respect? Well, apparently you are. There's another thing that I think really helped ASU to maintain such a high ranking, and that's the fact that they played as well as they did in their playoff game. They took Texas to double overtime. They were a play away from beating Texas. There were several plays that go either way for ASU and for Texas that, if there's better officiating, alters that game. But ASU was right there. They hung in there with one of the blue bloods of college football. By the way, Texas #1 going into the year for the top 25 poll. Not a surprise. That looks pretty good for ASU. That they are number 11 and they hung around with that team. But those other teams and that I mentioned last year that won 11 games, SMU's number 16. Indiana's number 19, Boise State's number 25. That's a pretty sizable difference between where ASU is at and where the next closest team, which is SMU at 16, is at. And keep in mind, those 3 teams brought a lot back too. Like Boise State loses Ashton Genty. That's still a really good team in the Mountain West where they should be able to run that conference. They have, with SMU, a program that has a lot returning as well because Kevin Jennings is back there. With Indiana, you lose the quarterback whose name I can't remember, and I love him to pieces. You bring in Fernando Mendoza. Like they have good Rourke. Curtis Rourke was the other quarterback. Doesn't matter. Those 3 teams brought a lot back. ASU brought a little bit more back. But they have ASU quite a bit higher. And I really love and appreciate that. Keep in mind, they're also higher than a handful of SEC programs, too. They're higher than South Carolina. They're higher than Ole Miss. They're higher than Florida. They're higher than Tennessee. They're higher than Texas A&M. Those are programs that typically get really overrated at the start of the year, and they still gave ASU the opportunity. The last thing that I really like here, before we move on. Number 11 is just outside the top 10. Just outside. So you're still giving the team motivation week 1 to say, hey, if you want to make that jump, it's right there. You can do it. So you just gotta prove it. Start the year. Maybe blow out NAU 70-0, and then take down Mississippi State in Starkville. You come home, you beat Texas State, you're 3-0. You could easily be in the top 10, maybe the top 8. There is a great chance here for ASU. If they can go into conference play 3-0, that they can be well inside the top 10 at that point. And to me, it's the earn your way up mentality. And I love it because the teams ahead of ASU, there's some good programs. Now, I don't agree with Miami being at 10, but the rest of the teams we'll look at a little bit later, there's some good programs that ASU is going to have to battle here, and it's really, really exciting. I think that this is a really, really good start for ASU. This would be number 11. I thought there was a huge chance they were going to be outside the top 15. We're still waiting for the AP poll. Maybe they put them outside the top 15, but the AP poll doesn't typically have drastic differences between the coaches poll. Normally, they're pretty close. There can be 3, maybe 4 spot movements sometimes. Feels like more often than not, they're pretty consistent. But ASU number 11 in the coaches poll to start the year. What do you guys think of that? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. What are the ramifications for ASU being ranked this high? That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's talk about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and tune in with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings back the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf course drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or making memories with your friends, this one is always a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or even off it, you just need that extra boost to be able to stay sharp. Think about the best shot you've ever had. Think about the best back nine you've ever had. Do you think it would have been even better if you had that little bit of a shot of energy for yourself? Because I don't know, sometimes it definitely feels like that may be the case. If you think so, go to 5hourenergy.com today. That's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code Locked On Golf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to get through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Thanks, as always, to tune in to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, making us your first listen of the day. Shout out to the everydayers over here every day. All right, so ASU number 11. I love it. Hopefully you love it too. And again, let me know what you think in the comments. There are some ramifications here in the national perspective for ASU. And that's where I want to start because there's ramifications in the Big 12 too. But let's start with the national perspective. First of all, clearly the other coaches in college football have a great deal of respect for Kenny Dillingham. That is not easily given to 30-year-olds. No, it's not. And don't get me wrong, college football is transitioning to younger guys. Like Nick Saban is no longer in college football. Not that Nick Saban doesn't respect Kenny Dillingham, because he very much does. But a lot of the previous old heads are gone. There are much younger guys that are in their 50s and their 40s now that can relate to Kenny Dillingham better than a Nick Saban could, or other coaches that were in their late 60s and early 70s, maybe even older. So there is more respect that is generated to such a young guy like Kenny Dillingham. And it's more than just respect that's given because, oh, well, look how quickly he turned the program around. No, there's respect that's there because they see how great things are going for ASU, how great things are going to continue to go for ASU, how the perception has changed so quickly, how the recruits and the transfers are so interested in Arizona State, and now they want to come to the desert and they want to play for Kenny Dillingham. They clearly see that stuff, and that matters a lot. It reflects the program. It reflects the culture. It reflects the recruiting. It reflects the roster depth. Look at the coaching staff that's returned. Look at the amount of season ticket holders that renewed and the amount of brand new season ticket holders. Think about the investment that all the students are bringing. Think about the Activate the Valley movement that's going on. They look at what Kenny Dillingham is doing, not just for Arizona State football on the field, but what he's doing for everything off of it. And they go, yeah, that is more than commendable. We need to give him his flowers. And I love it. I love that Kenny Dillingham is getting this respect that he has grinded to earn and is recognized, not just by the people with podcasts, not just for the people who live in Tempe, Arizona, and in the Valley. It's being recognized by coaches across the country, from the G5 level to the Power 4 level. That means a lot. It reflects a lot of great things about ASU. It might signalize that nobody views ASU as rebuild anymore, which is insane. Because when Kenny Dillingham got here, this was ground zero. This was a total, utter rebuild. There was no other way to describe it. He brought some good players to the team in year one. Jaden Rashada, a very close to 5-star quarterback recruit, came to ASU off a 3-win season because of what Kenny Dillingham sold him on the program. Did he stay? No, but man, that says something that you can get any kids of that caliber to come to your program. But then in year two, they do the same thing. They attack the portal and they turn it around that quickly. Like these are things people notice. And now the perception might be that ASU, which was once perceived as one of the biggest rebuilds in college football, and yours truly said as much. I thought that this was going to be a drastic, massive rebuild. You typically want to give college coaches about 3 years. I did not think ASU would be anywhere close to this in year 3. Last year, I was hopelessly optimistic, and I will claim hopelessly optimistic that ASU could be 7-5. And it went 11-3, 11-2 before the playoff, 10-2 in the regular season. That's impressive that ASU was able to do that in year 2. And now year 3, things are viewed that much more. This is a ready now team. This is a win now team. That's the way people see this program. This is not a rebuild. This is not a reload. It's special. It could be tied to all sorts of stuff, but it's special. Let's take a look at the Big 12 perspective of this, though, because there are ramifications within ASU's own conference about being inside top 25, being inside the top 15, being ranked number 11, and you guessed it, being the number 1 ranked team in the Big 12. Phenomenal. Chef's kiss, the way it always should have been. There was never, ever, 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 ever a reason for any other team in the Big 12 to be ranked ahead of Arizona State. Excuse me, not a single one. There are good competitors, yes. I've highlighted K-State, Texas Tech, and Baylor as my 3 big teams to watch out for. I am interested in Utah. I am very bullish on TCU. There are a lot of good teams in the Big 12. Iowa State, Kansas State, BYU, Texas Tech are all in the top 25. K-State at 20, Iowa State at 21, BYU at 23, Texas Tech at 24. First of all, I love that Texas Tech is lower because you're asking them to prove it. You're asking Texas Tech to show off that for them, it's not just about assembling a good team and a paper warrior, paper champ. You're asking them to prove it. And I love that. And you can't even attack me for that, Texas Tech fans, because I love your team. And I think that we could possibly see you in the Big 12 title game. But you do need to prove it. You do need to earn it. And the coaches reflected that by having them as the 5th ranked team in the Big 12. I appreciate that. But I appreciate even more that ASU is number 1 in the Big 12. They always should have been. They never should not have been the number 1 team in the Big 12. So I respect and I appreciate that the coaches reflected that as well. Big things for ASU. Are they now the flagship program in the Big 12? Are they the team that when the nation looks at the Big 12, it's going to be based on the success of Arizona State? If Arizona State is not good, does that mean the whole Big 12 stinks? I don't know if that's the way that the nation is going to view it, since ASU is coming off its first successful year and its first year in the Big 12. This is only year 2. They did win it in year 1. They did win it in the second year of a massive rebuild. They did win it with a then 34-year-old head coach. These are things that come into account and come into play when you're looking at, hey, should ASU reflect the conference? Okay, well, here's some things to consider. Here's some other things to consider. They're the reigning champions. They look really good. This, that, and the other. Is ASU reflecting the conference moving forward? They might be this year. Will they continue to be? Kansas State is another team that is a benchmark in the Big 12, and they've been a benchmark for a very long time. Iowa State has been a very good team for a very long time under Matt Campbell. TCU has been a very good team for a very long time. Texas Tech has been a pretty darn good team. Baylor's had more good years than not. Utah's had more good years than not. Colorado, they're exciting. BYU, they're exciting. There's a lot of good teams in the Big 12, but they may look at ASU and base the Big 12 success off of Arizona State. If Arizona State only has 8 wins this year, they might see the Big 12 as insanely weak. Even if another team goes 10-2 or 11-1, they may look and go, yeah, well, the conference is volatile. Look at the way that ASU fell apart and they brought everything back. Not saying it's fair, not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, but that could very well be the case. We're gonna have to wait and see and find out. It also could very well affect if a second Big 12 team is able to make the college football playoff. That was not the case last year. Will it be the case this year? We're going to have to wait and see. Overall, I have some thoughts on the initial coaches poll. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's time to talk about our friends over at Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices drop as it gets closer to showtime. You can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. If you're tired of endlessly scrolling to try and find the best deal, Game Time Zone Picks is going to find the best seats in the section for you. You can get a panoramic view of your seats. You know what to expect when you arrive. There's no surprises. Game Time is also going to be able to show you the price up front. There are no hidden fees this way. If you're worried about what happens if your plans change, the Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation, protection, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again, as always, for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. Shout out to the everydayers who are here every day. Let's round this bad boy up with my overall thoughts of the preseason coaches poll top 25. No particular order here, no script. Let's just talk about my opinions. Miami is number 10. Why is Miami number 10? Miami was one of the most volatile programs that college football had last year. They were beating good teams. They were losing to meh teams. and they were going down to the wire every single week. And I didn't see that defense massively improve. They're going with a brand new quarterback again with Carson Beck. Now, for the record, I am a Carson Beck fan. I do not think that one bad season reflects him, especially because the season before, when he wasn't dealing with injury, was really, really good. Yeah, Carson Beck is a good football player. He also, not only last year was he playing through injury, he didn't have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. He had to make some adjustments. That's a little more difficult to do when you're not playing 100%. He's going to Miami. He's going to be playing with Mario Cristobal, who was really able to turn around Cam Ward, who was a good quarterback and went on to be the number one pick. I'm not saying that's a trajectory for Carson Beck, but I do think that's a good situation for him. They have good football players. Their offensive lineman, Francis M. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name because I would probably butcher it. He's pretty good. Reuben Bain, love him. They added some guys at receiver. They added the BYU kid, but they're also replacing a lot of their receiving core. They're replacing their running back room. That's a team that is going to be interesting this year. I do not think they should have been ahead of ASU. I think they are way too high in the top 10. I would have struggled to have them in my top 15, but I am very intrigued with Miami. Clemson is number 6. I think that's way too low. Clemson is my way too early prediction to win a national title this year. Not ASU as much as I would love to. Clemson has been there and done that. I know that they got run off the field last year by Texas. I think that they are a much better football team than what we saw against Texas last year in the opening round of the college football playoff. I also look at Clemson, and I see Cade Klubnik is back, my way too early pick to win the Heisman Trophy. I see he's got his weapons. Bryant Wesco is back. Antonio Williams is back. TJ Moore is back. They've got some seriously good players there. Their offensive line looks good, and that defense is nasty. Clemson looks good. Number 6 is too low for me. Notre Dame at number 5. I like Notre Dame. I would flip them and Clemson at least. CJ Carr is really interesting to me at quarterback. Notre Dame is finally going to go with one of their younger guys because prior to that, they had the former Wake Forest kid whose name I can't remember. Last year, they had Riley Leonard. Now they're going with a young guy. Let's see how that works out for them. Texas, number 1. I get it. I'm typically somebody who says the reigning champs need to be number 1 until further notice. Ohio State's number 2. I understand why Texas is ahead of Ohio State because of everything Ohio State is replacing. But can we also note that Texas is replacing a lot too? They're replacing the majority of their offensive line. They're replacing some of the best players on their defense. They are replacing the top 3 receivers and their number 1 tight end and one of their top running backs. Oh, and their starting quarterback. Now, Arch Manning is stepping in for Quinn Ewers. He is more than likely a drastic upgrade at quarterback. You're still replacing him with a guy with less than 5 career starts. Quinn Ewers had started like 30 plus. That's a difference. They are replacing a lot, just like Ohio State is replacing a lot. So I'm not sure what the logic was for Texas over Ohio State, because I feel like any logic that you use to put Texas higher could be used to rate Ohio State higher. Okay, well, Texas has really good players coming back. So does Ohio State. They have Jeremiah Smith. He might be the best player in college football. They have Caleb Downs. He might be the best player in college football. Like, they are replacing really good players with, what a surprise, really good players. We don't know what's going on at quarterback. At least with Texas, we have an idea of what Arch Manning is. With Ohio State, Julian Saint's probably the guy. We don't know if Julian Saint is the guy. I trust Ohio State. I am typically the guy, if you're the reigning champ, you should be number 1 until further notice. I understand Texas being number 1. I don't know that I agree with it. I'm not going to sit here and debate you for hours on end about it. I just think I would have given the edge to Ohio State. Penn State, number 3, I respect that, but until they can prove to me that they can beat the bad boys in their best years, Ohio State and Michigan in their best years, I'm going to be a little more hesitant on Penn State. This has to be the year they win it. This has to be the year they win it. Oregon, number 7. Oregon, interesting to me. I feel like I would have put them a little bit lower, not much lower, but a little bit lower because of the quarterback situation. And they're replacing some big guys. And Evan Stewart is now out for the year as their number 1 receiver. They're going to be relying on the Corian Moore, true freshman, to try and be Jeremiah Smith. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. A lot of the defense is returning. A lot of the defense is gone. We're going to see. Bama, number 8. Bama is a sneaky good pick for me. They're coming off a 9-win season. It's their first season under double-digit wins in 4,900 years, something like that. First year of Kalen DeBoer, it was disappointing. They're in a very good situation. They've got a lot of good returning players, And I think that this team is going to be much more in tune with how Kalen DeBoer wants to run this team, especially with Ryan Grubbs, his former offensive coordinator from Washington, going back to join him down in Tuscaloosa. I think Alabama is going to be a high-powered offense this year, and I think that defense is going to force a lot of turnovers. Here are some of the teams that I think are sneaky. Illinois, number 12. Wow, Richie, how sneaky are they? They're number 12. I think Illinois could be one of the 4 best teams in the Big 12 this year. What you saw last year from Indiana, first of all, I still like Indiana. I do appreciate their lower, but you got Elijah Surratt back at wide receiver. I think Francisco Mendoza is a good enough quarterback. Illinois has the 3rd most returning production. They are only behind ASU, who's number 2, and Clemson, number 1. I love Luke Altmaier, their quarterback. I love everything that they've been able to put together, and I love the confidence that they have. I'm a big fan of them at number 12. I love that they're ahead of South Carolina. I hope Shane Beamer eats his heart out, and normally I like South Carolina. Michigan, number 14. I am big on Michigan this year. That's one of my favorite teams. Maybe it's just the Bryce Underwood thing. Maybe it's the fact that this team just had to get really humbled, and I anticipate them to be able to make a comeback. I don't know. Florida, 17, and Tennessee, 18. I appreciate that the coaches didn't want to overrank some SEC teams, especially ones that could be really good, but may not live up to the hype. DJ Lagway is phenomenal. Is he going to stay healthy? And how's Florida going to replace some of their bigger players? Tennessee, that's a good team. What do you look like without Nico Iamaleava at quarterback? You could be much better, but you might be where you were at last year, and that was just not good enough. Texas A&M, people try to sell me on them every year. I'm still not there. I get it. I understand the intrigue. I'm just not there with A&M. I like 3 of the 4 Big 12 teams that are ranked. I'm happy with K-State, Iowa State, Texas Tech. BYU should not be ranked right now. I'm sorry that they're replacing a lot, including their quarterback. I'm just not there. If I had to pick another team from the Big 12 to be ranked, it's Baylor, and I don't think it's close. Boise State, 25. I'm happy that they're staying in it, even if they are the only representative from the G5. If you're going to have someone represent the G5, it needs to be Boise State. Of the teams that received votes, I can't believe that 8 coaches gave a vote to Florida State. That is 8 more votes that Florida State should be receiving. They're coming off a 2-win season. That is insanity to me. Oklahoma getting 221 votes, which was, 25 votes out from Boise State, who made the spot there at number 25. I like Oklahoma. I don't love Oklahoma, and I still don't know if they're ready to prove themselves in the Big 12. Or in the SEC, excuse me. Missouri and Louisville are outside. I'm not big on Missouri. I think Louisville is a sneaky good team. USC, we'll wait and see. Utah, Baylor, Auburn got some votes. Overall, I feel like most of this is pretty spot on. It's just interesting the teams who got votes. Buffalo had a single vote. I don't know. That's kind of cool. Army had 33 votes. That's kind of cool. We'll wait and see. But I do think that this is going to be a really interesting college football season, and I'm really happy that ASU is off to the right step with the respect from the coaches. Number 11, what do you guys think? Did the coaches get it right? Do you think ASU should be higher? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on YouTube at Richie Brads 36. You can hit me up on Twitter, at Richie Brads 36. Drop a comment on YouTube, wherever you're getting your shows. Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning into the Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to the everydayers who are here every day. Still have a lot more to come as the season winds down for ASU. 25 days out. I still have to give all my record predictions, my stat predictions, and more. That's coming up very soon. Now's never been a better time to subscribe to Locked On Sun Devils, and I'll catch you next time. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.